Hello there. Dr. Bill Crawford here, psychologist, speaker, author of 8 books, host of 2 PBS specials. Here again to bring you another tip on how to help you create the life you want. Specifically, how to use my life from the top of the mind philosophy to bring more clarity, confidence, creativity into everything you do. Today I want to talk about the subject of grieving, and you may have noticed I've done a couple of videos on these, couple of articles on these that I call Grieving the Shattered Dream. It's kind of a new take on grieving that I think gives us a perspective on it that allows us to move through the process of dealing with loss and grief in a more effective way. For those of you who know, I kind of had my experience of grieving when I was very young. My mom and dad, I was an only child. My mom and dad both died of cancer within around 6 months of each other when I was 21. Now, I didn't know anything about psychology and I didn't know anything about grieving, and I just shut down because that's what us guys do sometimes, just shut down. Unfortunately, I stayed shut down for about 10 years until I got into a counseling psychology program at the University of Houston where they're smart enough to make you deal with your own stuff before they let you loose on the public. So we were sitting around talking about, our life. And I said, well, my mom and dad died of cancer within around 6 months of each other when I was 21. But, I'm okay. They went, whoa, what? I said, well, yeah, but stuff happens. You got to move on. And they were smart enough to go, oh no, Bill, that's not the way it works. If you're going to help people, you can't blow it off like that. And I knew they were right, but I was so afraid of touching that pain. I was afraid of losing it. I was afraid of not being in control. It took me 6 months to get courageous enough to finally touch that pain. And when you hadn't cried over losing your parents in 10 years and you start crying, you can't stop. But for the first time in my life, it felt really, really good to feel really, really bad. Because it was the first time I'd gotten in touch with, found that love I had for my parents. So I was working with a client the other day, and she was kind of talking about kind of losing it. And she's a really smart person. I said, maybe we could reframe that. Maybe you weren't really losing it. Maybe you were finding it. And it gave me this idea about looking at grieving, not as losing it, but as finding it. Because we don't want to be someone that when we lose someone or something that's really important, we go, yeah, who cares, next. That's not who we are. That's not the statement we want to make about who we are. That's not what we would recommend to someone we love. And for those of you who follow my life from the top of the mind philosophy, a lot of how we find ourselves being in life has to do with what part of the brain we're engaging. And I think this fear of losing it, fear of being out of control, fear of being a burden on people, fear of not being stoic and being able to handle life, that fear has us going into that lower brain and stuffing those emotions and trying not to feel them, which ironically has us stuck in that grieving process longer and longer. People talk about grieving as a wave of emotion that washes over you. Nobody says, I'm going to be grieving for a while. It just happens to us. So if we'll treat grieving like a wave, if we're in the ocean and here comes a wave, if we dive into the wave, we come out on the other side. But if we fight the wave, it'll take us and throw us on the bottom of the ocean, roll us around. So what I suggest we do is see grieving for what it is. It is a function of our parasympathetic nervous system designed to bring us back to normal, back to homeostasis. You may know that we have these 2 nervous systems in our body, the sympathetic nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system throws us into fight or flight. The parasympathetic nervous system brings us back to normal. One of the functions of this parasympathetic nervous system, the nervous system that's designed to bring us back to normal, is stimulation of the tear glands. So crying isn't our failure to cope. It's our parasympathetic nervous system kicking in, allowing us to process that pain and that loss. But we're doing it in a way that brings meaning to the process and a purpose to the process. When grieving means we're losing it and there's something wrong with me and I'm not in control, I'm a burden on others, that makes the pain of grief worse. But when grieving means I'm finding it, I'm not losing it, I'm finding it. I'm finding some part of me that I can be proud of. It's one of the reasons when I'm helping people deal with loss and grief and they find themselves having tears about that, I call those tears liquid love. It's a behavioral manifestation of how much we care. It's something to be proud of. If we're willing to see our sadness and our tears and our grieving as finding it, as something to be proud of, as something to move into, something to dive into so that we come out on the other side just a little bit more resilient. And here comes that next wave and we dive into it. And after a while, the waves get a little smaller and smaller. They never go away because frankly, that pain represents something that is meaningful to us, something that we really want to hold on to. So what I encourage you to do, if you ever find yourself grieving a shattered dream, that whole concept of what we're grieving is not just what we've lost, we're grieving what will never be as a result. So if you find yourself grieving a shattered dreaming, having natural, normal, healthy emotions as a result of that, I'm going to encourage you to change that description from losing it to finding it. And be proud of what you found. Be proud of the part of you that you have found that you're bringing to life, because it really speaks to something you can be proud of. It's your humanity, it's your caring, it's your love. It's how much you care when you are in a connection and a relationship with somebody else. Hoping you're finding these videos valuable. I'm having a great time bringing them to you. If you do, please hit the like button. You know how everybody loves it when you like it. Share with your friends. If some of your friends are going through this, or if they have people that this might be valuable to, the more you share it, the more people can get the idea and hopefully benefit from the information. This is what I love to do. I love to go around the world teaching people my life from the top of the mind philosophy. This is where I show people how to access their clarity, confidence, and creativity and compassion for themselves and others by accessing a specific part of the brain, and how to avoid the stress, frustration, anxiety, the fear that gets in the way of our clarity, confidence, and creativity by avoiding a specific part of the brain. If you'd like me to come and do this for your organization, your school, your professional association, all you got to do is go to my website, Phd.com, hit the contact button, let me know what you're interested in. Love to talk with you about that. By the way, I also send out one of my favorite quotes each week to about 6,000 folks on my quote list, along with 2 or 3 paragraphs about how to apply that quote to life. If you would like to receive that, all you got to do, go to my website, Bill Crawford, Ph.D., or just Google Bill Crawford, Ph.D. I'll come up on the first page. Hit the subscribe button. It's free. Put your name, email address in, and each week I will send you one of my favorite quotes, along with 2 or 3 paragraphs about how to apply the quote to life, along with a link to that week's video. Got this channel in YouTube. It's got about 400 videos on there. I try to post these everywhere: YouTube, Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, iTunes, LinkedIn, all that stuff. So feel free to follow me on all the social media. Again, I hope this is valuable, and until next time, here's to you. Bring in more clarity, confidence, creativity into everything you do, and I look forward to seeing you in the future.